Welcome everybody to this edition of Beers with Bill. It is my pleasure to welcome back Tim Schneider, the co-founder and owner, president of Duntroon Cider House. Tim, welcome back.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. We're going to start with the Empire, the driest cider.
Yeah, and I brought my little tasting glass home that if you guys ever get into glassware, but one of the things probably 2 years ago, we switched all our glassware to lasered. So if you were to get, you can get these elsewhere, we laser the bottom of the glass in our fluted 13 ounce in this little 5 ounce tasting, and I'll just show you the effect. It actually creates, discharges carbonization from the glass. It actually gives you a really nice phenolics and nose on it, and it decarbonates the cider, which makes it really easy and less heavy to drink. It allows you to consume more, which I think is probably the best feature. So I always pour out a cider, not like a beer. I'll pour it right into the center of the glass long, and you can see here. I think you can see the carbonation. What that does is it really releases a lot of the aromas of the cider, and you should, on the Empire. This one's made predominantly from Empire apples. There's a lot of Empire apples in our area. Here is a heritage apple. And when you smell that, you should get a nice light apple nose on it. And this cider's, we ferment it right out to dry. So this cider, it's got 0 sugar. It's got 0 sulfites. It's, all the regular naturally occurring things like it's gluten free, but this cider is really easy to drink, and it's probably our driest cider. And I had the biggest compliment I've received yet on this one. I had a West Country cider drinker, a Brit from Somerset, say this was the closest cider he's had to the ciders he used to drink at home, which it's kind of cool when you hear that, because that's obviously our goal to make English style classic ciders with Ontario apples. So this one, if you drink it, you should get a tiny bite on the tip of your tongue, and then on the back, it's really cleansing and nice and clean and refreshing, and it sort of gives you a little bit of dryness on either side of your tongue, which is really nice. I call it Moorish. It wants you to have another drink and maybe have a little more. But you also get this juicy sensation on the center of your tongue, which gives you that apple flavor. So this cider is quickly becoming our best-selling cider next to our Standing Rock, which we'll have last. But if you guys are looking for a super, and this is 5.5% alcohol, so it has a bit of a bite to it, but it's an easy drinker, and it's great on ice. So we carved this one up a little bit as well. So when you pour it over ice in the summer, the issue with that is it's super crushable and dangerous. They go back quite easily. So I like this. I don't know. Has anybody got any comments? Or I'm actually, last time we spoke, Bill, I think there was a few questions at the end, but I was just kind of interested, given that some people have had our cider before, to get some feedback and just thoughts from people.
Okay. Well, keep an eye on the chat line, and the people will probably throw their thoughts in on that one.
Perfect.
I am, as you know, not a cider drinker, and this would be fantastic. I love it. It's And I can see on ice in the summertime, it would go down so easy.
Yeah, and it's, there's this big seltzer craze right now, and what's interesting about cider is, like, if you look on the ingredients, there's apples. That's the only ingredient in this. There's no water. And that's why, as I think I mentioned the last time, we spell with a Y, because we work only with natural juices, which is, for the English definition of cider, is made only from juice.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's this is an easy drinker in the summer, but very dry. It's not, this is not a session cider. I think it's also a nice wine replacement too, for anybody that's trying to create a long drink or a transition from, instead of nursing a glass of wine with soda and ice in the summer. This is it's a great alternative if somebody wants a long drink that's a wine drinker. So yeah, this cider's, we're proud of it. And this one, so one thing you'll notice, you may or may not notice with Ontario ciders, they're quite acidic because they're made from table apples. Effectively, that's what Ontario has predominantly is Macs and Empires and Spartans and Cortlands and all the ones your grandmother would have put in a pie or applesauce or something. So they're quite acidic. So what we do to mellow the acids, we age, this cider's aged about 9 months. So most ciders that you'll get, the acids are either masked by sugar, or what you'll get is a very sharp acidic cider, because they're not aged. So that's one of the things we do to try and mellow the ciders out and make them nice and drinkable and easy to drink.
A couple of questions we need to get to. First one would be, where do you source your yeast?
Where do we source our yeast?
Yeah.
We buy a cultured yeast. It's one of our secrets, that actually gives us a lot of our floral notes, and we have no sulfites. So we use a yeast that's a predatory yeast, but it's French. It's from France.
Okay.
And
which holds into the tradition that you wanted to do French and English style.
Yeah, and we're trying to make ciders that are pretty, that are, I think they're premium. I mean, we use temperatures to manage sulfites, to manage the cleanliness of the cider. We don't. So traditionally, when you make a wine or a cider, what you do is you press the juice, which we do. We grow and press our own apples. We have a pretty big cider mill, and then what you do is you sulfite the batch, and you basically neutralize the batch of all bacteria and existing yeast. We don't do that. What we do is we actually put our yeast in and raise the temperatures up and create a rapid high population of predatory yeast that cleans it, basically goes into the tank, elbows up, and says, "This is my town. This is my tank." And that's how we start the process. And then after that, we manage temperatures. We basically we use temperature to maintain, any fermentation or any bacteria. And then when we put it in the can, we actually pasteurize this in the can. So once it's in the can, and to stabilize it, we'll pasteurize it at that point, which, in my opinion, I actually think it makes the cider taste brighter and crisper. There's an ongoing debate with people around pasteurizing ciders. Me personally, I think I know a lot of cider makers are starting to do it. One, because it creates stability in the can, but two, it actually gives you a really nice, bright, crisp, and clean cider. So
That, you say that brings to mind that, was there a special set of permissions you had to get from the regulatory bodies to do that?
no, it's because we're pasteurizing it. I think we're the only cider on the market that's without sulfites. I don't, I
Okay.
believe that. I don't know for sure, but we had a lot of explaining to do when we went through the LCBO, how we were going to manage our process and get the sulfites out of the product. But my wife's allergic to sulfites. That was the genesis of the decision. And what's amazing is how many people don't realize they're allergic to sulfites, and they think they've got like they're allergic to alcohol, or they've got other issues. And as it turns out, in many cases, it's sulfite. So we've had a lot of people that, and we've had to maintain that right across our product fleet that we've got, just because when people grab a Duntroon, they're expecting it to be sulfite free. So but just sort of full circle on that, the yeast that we use, I think it's typically used in Chardonnays and rosés to really release fruit and bouquet from and phenolics from the wines. So that's why we use it, and I think it does that, because you can filter and dry a cider out, but often lose the flavor and a lot of the aromas. So that's what we've tried to do. The other one that's pretty interesting, if you guys wanted to try, do you want to go through a couple of the ciders?
Well, I was going to prompt you in a minute to go to the next one, but there's a question on this one. Someone's curious why this has a nutritional label, but the other cans do not.
Great question. So this was our most recent LCBO release, and we released this last summer, and July this summer is the last month you're allowed to not have a nutritional label. So they've allowed us to go through the cans that we've got, but you'll see our every one of our ciders now that will be released this year will have the nutritional labels on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple other questions I need to get to as we move on. One being the proper way to drink it, ice or not ice.
Hey, so that's a potato question. We actually write on our cans. I'm not sure if it's on this one, but it's certainly on the Standing Rock and Rain Dance. It's like on ice or not on ice, your preference. And it's really, I have to say, for me, it's the weather. I think in the winter, I don't drink it on ice that much. In the summer, I love an Empire, or I drink, me personally, I drink mostly, oh God, I drink them all. I drink Standing Rock on ice a lot in the summer, because it's super, it makes it super easy and refreshing to drink. And for me, that's what a cider should be. You'll see us come out this summer. We've got a couple of, some flavored ciders that we're going to release at the cidery. But one of the absolute goals of the cider is to make it hope that you want to have two, as opposed to something that's kind of super funky and crazy and a sipper. I don't think Ontario apple ciders are meant to be sippers. We have French and English apples that we grow on the farm, and we have 750 mils. We have some other fine ciders, we call them. I would say those are sippers, but these ones, I think the Ontario ciders are meant to be crisp and clean and thirst quenching.
Yep.
So I was going to say, no, this one here is kind of funky, the Hazy Days. So, it's gluten-free, GMO-free, sugar-free, and attitude-free. So this one here is has a bit of a haze in it. And that's just the way it came out from a wild yeast fermentation. And it's kind of a cool cider. When you smell it, you get a little bit of actually get a little. What's fun about it is you get a bit of barnyard when you first open it, the phenolics, and then for me, I actually get a little bit of tropical fruit on the nose, and then drinking, I get a bit of melon. But the hazy days. This one here is I don't know if I can get that on the camera there. Oh, it's not liking that one. Yeah, can you guys see?
What are you showing?
I'm showing the hazy days.
I probably can't get it either because I've used.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. So this one's done off the skin yeast. This is a wild yeast, natural fermentation. So we do that off the skins of the apples. So we basically, again, we press the must, and then we activate, we focus on activating that yeast and getting a high population again. So you've got a dominant yeast. And this one turned out really nice. Up at Blue Mountain, which is close to our cidery, this is the #1 selling cider up at the mountain with the sort of the rad borders, and all the kids, they like that bit of funk, and it's dry. It's organic as well. This is made from all our own organic apples, and it's 0 sugar and nice and dry. Yeah. Yeah, this is good. And this one's a bit funky. It's got a tiny bit of oxidization on it as well, which gives you, it really dries your tongue out. And this one has Max Red Delicious. I'm just trying to remember now. It has Red Delicious, Cortland, Spies, Spartans, and Golden Russets.
So how do you decide the combination of apples to go into the juice to begin with?
We look at the well, we do all of our batches in 1,000-liter tanks, and then we'll store hundreds of them. And what we do each time when we press, we'll do the bricks or SG. We'll also do acid. We'll do test for pH levels, and we'll also taste the juice and really look at the profile of the juice, and we'll mark notes. So when we're putting together a blend, we'll actually select. We've got very orderly, systemized storage of the tanks. So we'll actually blend it to, and with Standing Rock, if anybody drinks Standing Rock or Rain Dance or even Empire, the Rain Dance and Standing Rock are which we'll get to. Those ones are not seasonal, where Empire's seasonal. You'll notice they're pretty consistent, like over and over from batch to batch. And that's how we do that, is we actually select the apples. We reference the apples, but also the sugars and the acids to get that, and then look at the flavor profile. And we will blend for that consistency. And to date, it's actually been pretty consistent. Interestingly, because the apples are different every year. They have different sugars and different levels of acid, and even different flavor profiles. So, but that's how we do that. Yeah. So the Hazy Days, it's a little bit sour. That one's aged about 6 months, and I like it. it's not my go-to, but I'll have that probably 1 in 10. But that one, and that one's just available at our farm. So there's a few new people, or there are a few people that weren't on last time. If you want, I can tell you. Do you want me to tell you a little bit about our cidery and what we've got going on there? I think I see some familiar faces.
And there'll be some new faces. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great.
So Tim, the show's yours. I'm just going to ask questions when we hit certain spots.
Yeah.
And one of them was going to be like what's going on at the farm. But if you want to talk about the farm. Sure.
Yeah. So we have, I can actually give you some older, some history. So probably if you look at the can, you'll see the Celtic apple. So Duntroon was settled in 1834 by Scottish migrants or pioneers, and they're from Duntroon Castle, which is spelled Duntrune, is from the Isle of Islay, and that's where all of the settlers in Duntroon came from. And my great grandfather was one of those people. So my mother's my mother's side of the family, the Campbells, actually settled in Duntroon in 1834. So when we were asked to we hired a marketing company because we're rubbish at marketing. We wrote our brand story out and sort of told them about what's happening. We've got an organic farm. Our family farm was sold in '62, which was up on the escarpment right in the Blue Mountain. It wasn't a great farm. It was like a mixed farm. It was on kind of hilly and rocks, so it wasn't a great farm. I think they got the short end of the stick on their allotment, but they sold it for $12,000 in 1962, and now you could probably add a number of zeros to that. I'm sure it's worth about $4 million. But that's that. So we decided, because Kimberly and I'm from Collingwood and Duntroon area. We moved to Toronto for work, and when we decided we were going to move back, we bought a farm in Duntroon, very close to where our family farm was. And it's not, we don't have a regenerative farming story. It was organic. It's been organic as far back in history as we've been able to track. And organic probably just because they didn't use chemicals or synthetic at the time that it was being farmed. So we have 110 acres, which is just south of Duntroon, heading towards Collingwood. And we had an old orchard that was about two acres on it. And we moved, we bought it. We decided to move to England because our kids were all the right age. And we moved to the UK for 8 years and lived in Henley-on-Thames, and just sort of maintained the farm from a distance. So while I was over there, I discovered ciders. This was back in 2005, 2006. So we had this farm, we had orchards on it. We had to make the decision whether we were going to stay in the UK or move back. So we decided to move back. Well, we moved back with a plan to build a cidery. So I trained as a cider maker over in the UK under Peter Mitchell up in the Midlands. And our ciders are quite similar to an English Midlands cider. So when we came back, we planted about close to 6,000 trees and added to around our old orchard, which is all heritage apples. And Duntroon's an old apple region. I think Thornbury's probably most familiar to people as an apple region. There's a lot of cideries, but Duntroon has massive old orchards of heritage apples, which has been great for us because as our orchards are coming on now, we've been able to get a lot of the apples literally within 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers from our farm, which are again, Macs, Cortlands, Spartans, Empires. So as after what we planted on our farm is predominantly English and French cider apples, we planted bush orchards, English bush orchards, which are they're about 303 trees an acre, which give about the same yield as if you see the super spindles or the small dwarf high density orchards where they look like grapevines. Our orchards are English bush orchards, which will effectively give you the trees will be about 15 to 18 feet high, but it'll give the same yield as a high density super spindle or these new dwarf orchards. But you shake the trees. So the difference with our orchards, and if you go to the UK, they don't hand pick one of the cider apples. You actually have machines that shake the trees and you sweep them up off the ground. So that's what we've done at our farm. It's probably one of the first ones. There's a research orchard down in Simcoe, Ontario that they're trying it, but that's the new thing now to plant these type of orchards and get rid of this whole labor component. And it was when I trained there that I was scolded on the fact that we had planned to put in these high density orchards. And the guy said, I swear to you, you will regret every tree you've planted if you don't consider what's going to happen to labor. It's already happened in the UK. So that's what we have is English bush orchards, high density English bush orchards. And it's mostly French and English apples, cider apples that we've planted. So now what our strategy is to bring, continue to draw on a lot of the heritage apples that are in the Duntroon area, but also start bringing our French and English ciders together with those. So we have a bittersweet symphony. We have Shaker Hill Blush. We have a lot of French and English ciders that we make now that are available just on the farm in bottles. So we did all that, and then the local apple packing plant, while we were pressing in our garage and trying to, moving tanks around outside, the local apple packing plant in Glen Huron, which is about 8 minutes from us, decided to close. And the guy phoned me and said, do you guys want to take this over for pressing in your cider mill? And it's massive and there's cold storage. So right now that's where we press. We have about 40,000 square feet there that we store and do all our pressing and fermenting and everything in this beautiful 200-year-old little hamlet called Glen Huron, just down the street from Duntroon. So moving forward, we have this year we'll be constructing about a 10,000 square foot cider barn, which will be our cider house. And we bought a old English publican barn out of Caledon and had it disassembled, and we've got it sitting in a container on our property right now, and we'll be reassembling that barn, and that it'll sit inside a sort of a fairly modern looking structure that's got decks and a lot of our production and new storage and food facilities for food trucks. So we're really trying to create a destination for people to come to, because we have so many people contacting us to try and find out if they can come to the cidery, and a lot of people come up to Duntroon. So that's sort of the next chapter in our journey, is to build the cider house this year, and then all of our fine ciders will be produced out of there. And our new orchards are now going into their 6th year, so we'll be getting about 30% production or yield off those English and French cider apple trees. So I'm pretty excited about that, because it's you can do so much with these apples. They're really spectacular to work with. So that's kind of what we're up to, and we've been really pushed. I've been really focused on trying to make. This is a good example too. I was just going to suggest, maybe if you wanted to, rather than me blithering on, maybe get another drink in your hand. We could try the net zero. So in my other life, I'm a climate change consultant. So that's what I did in the UK, was sort of the EU legalized and created a carbon tax. I wanted to kind of be there and see what happened with energy efficiency and clean tech and renewables. So that's the reason I was over there. So I still do that here. I consult for a company called Blackstone for basically net zero infrastructure for cities and universities and colleges and stuff like that. So this cider here is net zero. So our goal, this is helping fund all of our clean tech and renewable energy on the farm. And if you read about it, it just kind of says, you know, join us on our journey to becoming a fully sustainable carbon neutral cider house. Taste the difference, blah, 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 and sort of join us on our journey to become net zero. So all of our, we have robotic mowers that cut the grass. So they go out on their own in little fleets and cut the grass. We have all electric zero turn mowers on the property now. So we're trying to basically reduce our emissions to zero. We've moved to biodiesel for our tractors. We have 4 large tractors for all kinds of stuff. So anyways, that's what net zero means. Zero sugar, zero sulfites, non-GMO, no zero additives, but it's also sort of us tipping our hat to the climate crisis that we're in right now, and trying to help communicate to people what kind of what our ethos is around sustainability on the farm. And that's one of the reasons we instead of using all new materials, we got we're rebuilding that barn and reassembling it. It's kind of cool because as you take one of these old barns down, you literally have to color code and tag each piece and draw it and assemble it. So we basically, we're going to be reassembling this 200-year-old Meccano set of a barn within which we'll host people that come there. So I'm going to open this net zero. So this is like a Prosecco. And this is super clean. It's organic. It's got quite high carbonation because we think this one should be drank on ice. And this is we ship this all over Ontario, and we've got people that have traveled internationally that are trying to get us to ship it internationally. This is a really clean, crisp. This is 6% alcohol. And again, fermented to dry. But this is a really clean cider, and light apple notes, but very dry, very winey or wine-like in terms of flavor. Yeah, still giving you a bit of apple. There's a bit of apple there as well, both on the nose and on the palate. So I love this cider. And this is from our old orchard. So this is from our old original trees. And we also manage another 15-acre orchard down the street from us, an older orchard that we took over before it got plowed into corn or cut down and made into a cornfield. So we get a lot of, that's helped us with our production. But I don't know if you tasted this, really dry on the tongue. It dries your tongue right out to the tip. So again, this is a great one to have on ice, and 6%. So one or two of these and you're off with the fairies. It's pretty strong. I can feel my earlobes warming up.
Tim, we got a couple of questions that we should probably get to for a minute. And one being, there are cross-country ski trails around your area, right?
Yes.
There's lots of them.
Yes, actually, there's a great place. It's Duntroon Highlands, and they have snowshoeing. They actually have a professional racing, cross-country racing course there. So this past winter, we did snowshoeing and a bit of cross-country skiing, but just through the orchards. But there's a pretty large community of cross-country skiers that we see from that. That come from all over Ontario. Nice trails.
It's right on the, it's probably the highest point of the escarpment in the Collingwood Duntroon area where you're skiing. So it's nice. Yeah.
And someone's curious, when you do a limited edition release, what size of bottle or can are you using?
We do mostly 750s in the with this special release. So tonight I just showed up in time. We had a carbonation stone that was misbehaving and needed to be spoken to, and we needed to drain 2 tanks because we'd filled the tanks, tested the carb stone. We're going to figure out what happened. It feels like it back flooded and can't push cider back out of a carbonation stone. But that one is really interesting as our sumac. So we have a lot of because I'll just say it's organic because our property is organic, but there's a lot of wild buckhorn sumac on our property. And sumac, you'll know the indigenous peoples in this area made tea from it because it's high in tannins. It's also very high in citric acid. So we do an early harvest of it because we found that the turkeys, we have a lot of wild turkeys on the property. They actually eat it, I think, I believe for vitamin C in the winter. So it's high in citric acid. So we're just releasing an early harvest sumac, which is just phenomenal because it's when you're pressing it, and what we do is we make a tea and then we press it. It looks like a murder scene everywhere in the cidery because it's just such a rich, deep crimson red. So we blend that into organic cider, and that's an awesome cider if you guys are looking for something different because it's got the naturally occurring tannins from the little berries, but also it's a beautiful sort of rosé color in a clear bottle. So that's one of them that we do, and that's in the 750. And we're also doing our Shaker Hill Blush, which we're probably going to release next week, just because it needs to age long enough, and that's why it's sort of this time of year that it comes out. But that's a beautiful one, and that's done from French and also Redfield, which is a Quebec apple. They're red fleshed apples, and the juice when pressed out of them is actually red. It's a rosé color. So we're doing that, and it's full of tannins. The French apples have tannins and really nice astringency and velvety tannins. So again, that's in a 750 mil. We're going to do some flavored fruit flavors this summer by popular demand. My wife's going to kill me if I don't release some because I'm a little bit against. I like classic ciders, but we will be releasing some tutti frutti ciders for the people and my wife, because I think a lot of the ciders that we get right now in Ontario they're using the fruit flavors to mask some of the cider, some of the qualities of the cider. So I think we've sort of reached a point of maturity where I'm comfortable doing that now and putting some fruit flavors. So we're in our 3rd year of growing black currants on the farm, and what we'll be doing is we'll be releasing a black currant infused cider, which is really nice, and we're gonna make that one a little sweeter because we don't have any sweet ciders at all right now. They're mostly dry or off dry. So we'll be having a black currant that comes out in a 750 ml bottle. Derek, are you going to be offended if we get into a rain dance?
No, I got a backlog here, so all good.
My
wife's pregnant, and normally she's the cider person in the house, so she's just sitting there really bummed that I'm drinking cider.
She's abstaining. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is our rain dance. This is a rhubarb infused cider. I love this cider. I think I told the story the last time I was on. When we were training in the UK, the local Weston's, so it was in Weston's is a massive cider maker. They're the makers of Somersby, but they have in the UK they have fabulous fine ciders. But anyways, the one of the sons owned the local pub in Kilcott, and they had rhubarb infused organic cider on tap. It was when you went, it was actually like a steaming hot 23 degrees Celsius there. So when we got back from training, they had these sweating towers of rhubarb infused organic cider. So we were pulling pints of that and heading outside. And I absolutely fell in love with the combination of the rhubarb and the sort of balancing creating a tart really refreshing cider. So this one here is we call it Rain Dance. Long story, I won't bore you with it, but it's cloudy. So we have a local farmer that's about 15 kilometers from us. He has 120 acres of rhubarb. He's the rhubarb guy in Ontario. So we grab about 20 acres off him, and he chops it up for us, and we press the rhubarb in our presses when it's perfectly fresh, like literally when it comes off the field. And then what we do is we back blend and infuse this. So if you do have one of these, rouse it, and the serving instructions say shake gently to rouse. So that's cider talk. And what it'll do is it'll basically rouse the cider and blend it, so you've got a nice, you don't get any settlement of suspended material from the unfiltered rhubarb. So this is a great cider, I think. And it's cloudy and it's rhubarby. And this is a great cider. We serve this on frozen raspberries in fluted champagne glasses, ice cold when guests arrive. So you may have that tradition at your place when you have guests over, but in the UK, you always start with a prosecco or something fizzy in a glass, and that's how you start your evening when you're over for a dinner. So we often start when we hopefully have people over soon, because we haven't been doing much entertaining with COVID, the looming issues with COVID. But this is a great cider to start out with. And it's also great on ice. In the summertime, if you load up a pint glass with ice and then pour this on it, this is a really great, refreshing drink. And it's got, you'll taste the rhubarb after your second or third drink. It's a light infusion, but this is really palate cleansing. This has about 17 grams of sugar per liter. So, just over 8 grams of sugar, and that's naturally occurring fructose from the apples. We don't add any sugar. We cold crash the tanks, suspend the fermentation, and then do a very, very light bag filter on this, because we keep it nice and cloudy, which gives you a lot of flavor. And this is absolutely fabulous with a charcuterie board, or like poutine, or something that's quite fatty, or a little bit rich. And if you've ever gone to a wine tasting, they'll often give you rhubarb sorbet between your courses and your tasting. So this is a great palate cleanser if you're doing tastings, or switching between courses. So great cider, super crushable. This one's 4.3% alcohol, so this would sort of fall into like a session cider, classification, and very refreshing for the summer. Always drink this one on ice in the summer. Yeah, and you'll get the acid and the rhubarb on sort of on the top back sides of your tongue after you've had your sort of second or third drink, and as you drink further through the serving, the rhubarb really becomes more and more pronounced. So this one has a bit of a cult following. Anybody that likes that sort of tart, tannic, off dry rhubarb flavor, this is their go-to. So it was interesting. Girl with a cider view. I don't know if you guys follow any cider influencers, but every time she goes on an international cider tasting and talks about Canadian Ontario ciders, this is the one she drinks and talks about, just because it's such a, I think it's such a clean but unique cider. Anyways, I digress.
Oh, you're giving us lots of information.
Yeah, I haven't had a rain dance. I usually just drink it in the summer, so don't mind me. I'm actually quite liking this. It's not bad.
We want to sit here and just enjoy the rain dance and be quiet. We'll see how long before someone asks a question.
Yeah, yeah. And the last cider that I would that you would have had, I think did everybody get a Standing Rock, the blue can? Yeah, that's Standing Rock's our biggest seller. Just gonna open that up. So Standing Rock is small backstory. Standing Rock is a rock outcrop. So if have you ever been, I don't know if you guys have been to Duntroon, but there's the Nottawasaga Lookout Trail. So there's this is the Niagara Escarpment where we are, and there's caves here, and there's like 120-foot deep crevices and caves, and there's right by us there's the Singhampton Trail, which has Standing Rock on it. So that's a sappy story, but that's where I proposed to my wife, at Standing Rock. So but anyways, it's an outcrop rock. If you look it up, it's been used by people around here for years. I think there's stories about the Indigenous community using it, because if you stand on top of Standing Rock, you can see right out to Christian Island, a clear line of sight right out to Christian Island, which you can see from our farm too. But that's where the local Petun Indians watched for the Iroquois. There was a watch person there. That's where the Iroquois used to come in from Christian Island to attack the villages, because the Petun means tobacco. So they were where the Indigenous peoples around our area grew corn and tobacco. So they were farmers, not warriors. So the Hurons lived closer along the shores of Collingwood, which were, as you also know, were farmers and long houses and very communal. So anyways, the Standing Rock is that's kind of where we got it. This is meant to be sort of a really straightforward, solid cider. It's cider. 63% of cider drinkers in Ontario are women. So this one would be more like a beer replacement. There's more and more male cider drinkers going for this one. So why wouldn't you call it Standing Rock? So that's a little backstory just on how we picked the name. But this one here is this one's back is back blended with Macintosh apples. So when you open this and sort of get the nice phenolics and aroma, the nose off it is definitely apples. You get when you smell it, you should actually get a bit of apple pie. You should get sort of apple pie notes. And when you drink it, you should get a little bit of tiniest hint of butterscotch, and that's just the natural occurring fructose and sugar, residual sugar that we leave in it. And I think because we pasteurize it, I think it just tweaks those sugars a bit to give you a really nice sort of a nice light butterscotch note. At least that's what I get. And I love this cider because it's so. If I meet my buddies every Friday at a local brew house in town, and there's usually the tables filled with these and we'll have one or two at lunch. It's a really great session cider, easy to drink, and it's 4.3% alcohol. And again, no sulfites and no sugar added. Yeah. I don't know if anybody gets that butterscotch note, but I get it. And nice apple fruit forward flavor on it. And we carb these up. These are forced carb. They're not can finished or bottle finished. So we force carb our ciders. And this one sits around 2.6, 2.7, which is a really nice Petillon, nice lazy bubble, easy to drink. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I love drinking the ciders out of a lasered glass because it pushes a lot of that carbonation out of the drink and gives you a nice that nice nose, but also decarbonizes it so you don't get as bloated, and it allows you to, you don't get, because so 2.7. I don't know if you guys know much about carbonation. Bill, you may, but we carbonate these ciders. This one's a bit higher. It's about 2.8.5. The Standing Rock's about 2.6. So what that means is the compressed CO2 is 2.7 times 2.7 cans of volume of carbonation that's in the can. And it's under pressure. So it's at, it might be at 12 PSI in the can. So when you actually have that carbonation come out to atmospheric pressure, it would fill almost three full cans of carbonation. So it's a lot, right? And that carbonation, because your body's at atmospheric pressure, that carbonation releases in your stomach and in your body. And sometimes people get bloated because they have too many ciders or beers that are heavily carbonated. So I like decarbonating the cider when I'm drinking it. Yeah, I think Standing Rock in the winter is a great daily drop. If you do have a refreshment every day or two, or it's a great go-to. It's actually really cool to share the Standing Rock with most of them, but the Standing Rock is very accessible. So for people that haven't had, they're like, oh, cider, I don't like cider. And you ask them why, it's like, oh, because it's so sweet. And obviously, as you've seen tonight, our ciders don't have to be sweet to be refreshing and clean and crisp, but the Standing Rock has enough residual fructose or natural sugar in it that it's not that dry that it puts people off. I think it's really nice and fruit forward and an easy drinker for people that are just starting to drink cider. And it's fun to share that one because it's funny to see people when they taste it, they're like, that's not bad. I actually like that. And Bill, if you're there's a lot of beer drinkers that or have like me, I can't drink beer anymore. I can't metabolize the residual sugars anymore. It happens to a lot of guys when they hit 40, 42, 43, they start getting bloated and they think they're celiac or something like that. They're actually just unable to metabolize the unfermented sugars in the beer. And with ciders, especially dry ciders, the sugar's fermented right out of it, or there's fructose doesn't have that effect because it's a naturally occurring sugar. So there's a lot of guys, it's mostly men, and I don't know the sort of medical explanation for that, but we're seeing a lot of men that are having that problem switching over, and that's the Standing Rock is a good transition. It's sort of a bridge from beer to cider. And just a question, if you don't mind me asking, we've had a lot of people ask us, the LCBO wants you to have a 473 ml can. I don't know if you guys have had the Bose beer. I really like the little 355s, and I feel like there's a lot of cider left in a can by some people just because it's too large a serving. I don't know what you guys think, but we've been thinking about maybe doing some smaller format cans. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of breweries that have gone to the short can. So
Yeah. I think it's the perfect size. The LCBO doesn't really want them. I'm not sure why, but you have a much lower chance of getting a listing if you go in with the smaller cans. They want the 473s.
I think Remy hit the nail on the head because he works with the LCBO. It's all about profit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Standardization and profit.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So on the farm, I think some of the flavored ciders that we'll do, we're likely going to do a lychee. We're probably going to do a lychee, sweet lychee cider, because we have a lot of Asians visiting this area, and they don't like our cider at all because they've been traditionally had very sweet drinks. They've been raised with sweet drinks. We don't really have a sweet one, so we're thinking of doing a lychee. We also have some other flavors that we'll mention on our social probably in the next probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We'll announce. We're just checking to make sure we can get access to some of the fruits and not just use artificial flavors. I want to use. I think we want to use natural fruit flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I can. All I can do is invite. Come on up and see us at the farm in Duntroon. If you're going to make a trek up to Collingwood, it's awesome up here. There's so many great restaurants. I think in Collingwood there's 6 breweries, six craft breweries now. There's at least 10 cideries within 30 minutes of our place. We're sort of becoming the Niagara or Napa Valley of cider up here, simply because it's just there's so many apples growing up here. We're working closely with Thornberry now, just on different pieces of equipment. A lot of the cider makers up here are starting to work together with different canning lines, and we press for a lot of people because we have a pretty big pressing operation. We have an old school rack and cloth press. We don't use a belt press. So when we press, we get beautiful, clean juice, almost like the first phase of filtering from that. And so, yeah, it's interesting seeing the community sort of develop here as cider's becoming more and more popular in Ontario. And this is kind of where it's happening. There's a bit of stuff going on over in the Kingston, Picton area. I think there's a few cider makers there, but Up here, we've got like, there's guys like Windswept. I don't know if you've had Windswept on, but he does everything he does is bottle conditioned. He's into foraging from lost orchards in the mountain here. So really, some really cool things going on. And Thornberry, of course, is the biggest cider maker, craft cider maker in Ontario. They're up here, and we've got Coffin Ridge, and we've got Duxbury's, and we've got Spy. So there's some really great cideries up here. So it makes for a good day if you're up. And then, of course, all the breweries. We got Collingwood Brewery, Black Bellows, Side Launch. Thornberry's got I actually had their Czech Pilsner the other day. And a friend of mine who's one of the top brewers in Canada, he built Side Launch and built the brewery. He comes over and helps me. He's an engineer. And we had this Czech Pilsner that Thornberry made, and I have to say it's as good as any Urkel Pilsner or Budvar. Like it's fabulous. So there's some great, just if you are coming up, you won't be disappointed. And of course, Blue Mountain's just crazy. Like it's busier in the summer now than it is, I think, in the winter up at the mountain now. So lots to do if you do come up. And then, of course, if you come up to Duntroon, stop in, and we've got food trucks all summer. The ladies running. My wife basically runs the cidery. She's our general manager and co-founder. They've got food trucks all summer. We've got Argentinian barbecue. We've got just all kinds of pizza, all kinds of different things, and that's happening at every one of the cideries and breweries up here. So it's a lot of fun if you do get a chance. Highly recommend it.
Tim, thank you for taking time to share your story with us today. We truly appreciate it.
My pleasure.